Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here today. In today's episode, I'm going to be getting ready for work. It is early on Monday morning, but I'm excited to be here. I'm going to be getting ready and talking to you about the latest episode of Grey's Anatomy, season 17, episode 11, if you're watching along with me. I'm just going to talk to you about each different character, where they're at in their plot, and give you my honest take on what I think and what I think is going to happen. So if that sounds like your thing, or if you're just here for the makeup, stick around and let's get right into it. All right, so this was actually a better episode than most of the ones that we've gotten lately. Meredith actually opened her eyes, which I was very excited about. They teased it heavily in the trailers and in the previews, and I was like, yes, finally, we're gonna get Meredith awake. We're not gonna have to deal with this whole dream beach thing anymore. We're gonna be able to move forward. And basically, as soon as she opened her eyes, she went back to sleep. And I feel so gaslit at this point by this show, where they even have the balls to go in the trailer and be like, hey, she's gonna wake up. She's gonna wake up. And then like, okay, yeah, she woke up and she immediately went back to sleep. It was just almost insulting. Like, it's insulting at this point where the writers clearly know what we want and they're willing to tease us about it, but they're not willing to actually give it to us. Meredith woke up at the very end of the episode and talked to Richard and said, we need to talk about Joe Wilson. And that's fine, but what that makes me think is that we really are going to run with this narrative that Meredith has just been able to hear and understand everything that's been happening around her while she's been asleep. And I think that is a major problem, because that means that my suspicions about how they're going to handle her grief or lack thereof about DeLuca dying is probably accurate. So if you've been listening to me for a few weeks, you know that I have some conspiracy theories about this, that essentially, I think the writers are just going to try to get away with not having Meredith go through the grieving process with DeLuca at all. And I think that this really confirms that case. Because number one, it's kind of messed up that she's been asleep and clearly has been understanding everything that's been going on. And instead of waking up and being like, I'm so sad my boyfriend died, she's like, oh, I have to talk about how my fellow employee and colleague wants to switch specialties. That's messed up, right? Like, that's messed up. It really bothers me that they're just going to run with this narrative that Meredith has been knowing what's going on, and instead of her actually being upset about the thing that affects her personally, she's just going to get all wrapped up in this Joe Wilson drama that, like, frankly, I do not care about. They're having her move on way too fast. And I think that that also means that they're going to run with this whole story of like her falling for the Irish guy in her sleep or something. Like, I wonder how far they're going to push that. And by the way, it really bothers me that she woke up and no one told Amelia, no one told Jackson, no one told Teddy. In fact, they refused to tell Teddy, which was just rude. I mean, just mean. As much as I hate Teddy, like, that does not make sense. But they didn't tell Hayes. They didn't tell like half the team that she had woken up. And I'm like, that feels important. That feels big. What are you guys doing? Why aren't you guys bringing everyone together if it's supposed to be this huge, amazing moment, you know? I've already said it, but when it comes to Wilson, this whole switching to OB thing is getting way played out and is being taken way out of proportion. No one really cares. Go deliver babies. Go do your thing. Be free, be happy. I can't imagine a world in which I care about that. And I don't think anyone else does either, frankly. But we are going to play it out. And it is going to be a whole big topic of conversation because that's how they decided to end this episode. And I'm just so bored by it. So I mentioned last week how the show has really been using Amelia as everyone's shrink this season, which I'm fine with. And I really like Amelia. And I think that that actress is playing her so well. But in this episode, we really got to just focus on Amelia and what she's been going through. And I really, really enjoyed it. I liked just the show spending a lot of time on the Amelia and Link dynamic. I think that's been such a miss since they're so great. They have such great chemistry together. I think there's something so interesting to explore about their relationship. So I really appreciated that the show gave them time to explore that and that we still get to see these vulnerable moments with Amelia Amelia that aren't just focused on other people. So I really, really appreciated that storyline. I really feel like Amelia and Link are the only characters that are being written in an interesting and honest way right now. What they've been doing with them the last few episodes, and Link going through his breakdown a couple episodes ago, that was really great. If there's two characters that are being handled super, super well right now, it's those two. I also really respected the way that they handled the marriage topic. They're writing their own rules. They're being honest and communicating with each other. I thought that it was a really cute way to play that out, where that's clearly where they're headed. That's clearly what's going to happen, but they're going to do it on their own time, in their own way. And there's so much going on with Meredith still being in the hospital and them being in the middle of a pandemic and them taking care of how many children, like 8 children now at this point. It's good to bring it up, but it's also good to say like, hey, we're going to continue to check in and communicate. And it just feels very adult and grown up, and it just made sense to me. It still really does bother me though that in the process of them taking Meredith off the vent, no one seemed to think like, hey, maybe we should call Amelia. No one said anything? All right, now let's talk about Jackson, because this episode pretty much backs up my theory that they're gonna write him off the show after this season. I don't know, there's something about it that feels a little lazy, and I think that there's some decent intention behind what they're trying to do with his storyline. I like that the show has finally remembered that it has a new class of interns, and I was actually very excited to explore this class of interns because they definitely had some different type of characters with different storylines that we haven't really seen before. So I was very excited to finally get to see a little bit more of Mama Ortiz. This story about her getting mad at Jackson for booking hotel rooms, I like the intention behind it, but I think it was poorly executed. It doesn't really make sense mechanically. I actually used to work in hotels and resorts, and I know that that's very specific to my own experience, but I just can't imagine a world in which a hotel would be kicking people out because they can get other people in that will pay more. That's not good business, and that's not good for your reputation, and it's also incredibly difficult to execute on. So it didn't make sense to me mechanically, specifically because I have the background that I have working in hospitality and in hotels. But besides that, like putting all of that aside for a second, it also doesn't make sense that she, a grown adult who's in her 40s, who is a mother, who has seen a lot of life, that she would be taking out her anger on someone like Jackson, who is actively trying to make a difference. Like someone that is trying to help and is listening and is being attentive and is being thoughtful. It didn't make sense to me that she would be directing all that anger at him. I am, however, pretty excited about what they're going to do with Jackson and with Mama Ortiz after this. I mean, it seems like they're going to do something pretty interesting together where they're going to use Jackson to start making a little bit more of a social difference, which I really like. They're putting some purpose behind him, which is more than they've done with him basically all season. I'm really excited about that, but it still gives me just this feeling that without him being somewhat attached in a big way to one of the existing characters, like, yes, I know he's with Joe right now, but the show really isn't concentrating on that or playing it up. They've stuck them together, but they're not giving us a lot of plot behind it. It just makes me think that they're preparing to write him off the show, especially with April slated to come back as a guest star later this season. Sarah Drew is scheduled to come back. They've announced it. And I just feel like with them pushing her visit back to the hospital towards the end of the season and Jackson not having like the best storylines this season, my spidey senses are tingling, guys, and I think he's being written off. Also, let's remember he has a kid, and we haven't seen that kid literally all season. Like, what's going on there? All right, so let's talk about Bailey. So Bailey's back. She was really only gone for a couple of episodes, but she is back, which I am so excited about. But she didn't really do anything. She was mainly wrapped up in our B storyline, which is the storyline with the patients, with the newlywed couple who got their car stuck in the back of the truck, which honestly was a great crossover with Station 19. Again, a great show. I'm really liking Station 19 right now. But Bailey was really tied up more with that storyline, and they were really using her and this couple as a way to give Owen additional excuses to forgive Teddy. And at this point, you guys know how I feel about Teddy. You know how I feel about Owen and Teddy. I just don't think it's something that ever should have happened. I'm not a fan of them together. I'm not a fan of Teddy in general right now. And I don't think that she's taken enough responsibility for what she did and for cheating on Owen and for lying about why she named her child Allison. Like, I'm really not there yet, and I know everyone needs me to be, so I'm not going to harp on about it anymore. You know how I feel. But the show really used Bailey this week to try and push Owen to forgive Teddy. So that's what we saw at the end of this episode, was Owen hearing something that Bailey was saying to the patient, and Owen having his own realization because of her speech, which, I mean, I get it. Bailey gives really good speeches. And finally, let's talk about Owen and Teddy, because we ended our episode with the two of them again, and Owen going to Teddy and having this revelation after hearing a Bailey speech. And he went to Teddy and was like, hey, we've been friends for our entire lives. We've known each other forever. We've always been friends. We've gotten through anything. I'm not ready to, be anything really romantically, but I'm ready to be your friend. And she seems pretty stoked about that. And I think I'm more comfortable with that than if they were to get back together. I'm still, I don't know, I think I need to get over my own personal anger about the situation. And I do think it is good development for him to forgive her and to be able to move forward. I think that's healthy for him. But to say that he can just explain all of it away and still be her friend after all of that, I would just have a really hard time with it and have a hard time with the betrayal. But that's the direction that we're going. And if this means that they can be friends and then he's free to move on and maybe go find someone else to be with, that would be ideal. So I'm hoping that that is what they're doing with the characters. But we're just going to have to wait and find out. I think that we're probably mostly done with the two of them for this season. I think we've gotten to a point of resolution. So now in these future episodes, we can focus more on resolving some things with other characters. Meredith waking up. Maybe we'll get something with her and Haus. I imagine that we're going to get something with Amelia and Link finally getting engaged. I know that Winston and Maggie just got engaged, so that's really exciting. There are a lot of plots that are pretty much 75% of the way done. We just need to get them wrapped up for the end of the season, which is pretty quickly coming. I'm hoping that we get more of Awake Meredith in future episodes. It does seem like they ended the episode with her being at least somewhat awake and talking about Joe, so hopefully we're almost done with that. But overall, I would rate this episode as a solid B-. Definitely not the worst we've had this season, probably not the best. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm glad that we're starting to see some movement on the plot. Alright guys, so that is it for this episode. If you liked this video, please don't forget to leave it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. I am back here on my channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with brand new videos. So I hope to see you back here again soon. I love making these videos. I hope you enjoy watching them as much as I enjoy making them. It means so much that you would spend your time here with me. If you're new here, hello, my name is Katey Unfiltered, and I like to talk about makeup and TV, and whatever it is that's capturing my fancy, I am always going to give you my unfiltered take. Thank you so much for spending this time getting ready for work with me. It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.